today because recently we've developed new information in reference to a crime pattern that occurred over 18 years ago. This pattern occurred over a 4-year period between 2003 and 2007. It involved a series of rapes and a murder in Fairmount Park and Pennypack Park. The following is a list of the crimes. On April 30th, 2003, a 21-year-old female was raped at Kelly Drive and Fountain Green Drive. On July 13th, 2003, a 30-year-old female was raped and murdered at 3400 Conshohocken Avenue. On 10/25/03, a 37-year-old female was stabbed and when a male attempted to drag her down to the river in an attempted rape. This happened at West River Drive, just south of the Falls Bridge. And on August 11th, 2007, 4 years later, a 29-year-old female was raped at Frankfurt and Solly inside the park. These crimes were committed by an offender who came to be known as the Fairmount Park rapist. He was described as an Hispanic male in his 20s, medium build but muscular build, 5'8", dark complected, black hair, thin mustache, bushy eyebrows, and he had a widow's peak hairline. He had an earring in his left ear and at least 2 of the jobs. He was armed with a knife that he held in his left hand each time. And he was riding on a purple metallic 10-speed bike with curved handlebars. One of our complainants described the male as having scars on the left side of his chest, some type of deformity, scars, either burns or cuts, she was not sure. The offender also told some of our witnesses that some of our complainants that he was from Puerto Rico and he was from a large family having 5 to 7 brothers and sisters. He also relayed to them that he was living in the area for about 5 years. And one of the offenses, he was wearing a Zally's food store shirt with a logo on it. In each of these cases, all 3 of the cases actually, DNA profiles were developed that linked 3 of the jobs together. There was the first job at Kelly Drive and Fountain Green Drive. It was the murder at 3500 Conshohocken Avenue, and it was the last job at Frankfurt and Solly Avenue in the park. Those 3 cases were linked by DNA. Composite sketches were done for each crime after the crime occurred. The composite sketches that were done at the time. Is there one more than that? There is. These composite sketches were put out after each crime had occurred. As I said, these jobs happened about 18 years ago. That's a long time. In that time, there's been a lot of advancements in DNA technology. And we now, through the use of phenotyping, our lab has been able to develop a composite sketch based off the offender's DNA. So in other words, the complainants it wasn't a description from the victims or witnesses. It was just from the DNA alone. And Ryan Gallagher, the manager of the lab, can explain how that works, because I won't. But you have the big one of that. Okay, this is the composite that was developed from the DNA. It was. Okay, the one on the left is the one that they actually developed. It was projected out to the age of 25, which is approximately the age of our offender, as our victims described. The next 2 are age progressed, and I think that was done by a forensic artist to age the photo. So they were done because a lot of time has gone by. Hopefully somebody may recognize this person, today as he is today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Gallagher. He can explain a little bit about how this phenotyping works.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm from the Criminalistics unit of the Office of Forensic Science, and we process all the DNA cases for the city of Philadelphia. Over the past 18 years, we've done a lot of work, special victims and homicide, and all the PPD has done a lot of work investigating this case. And as Captain Bergman said, we previously reported links in 3 of those cases, 2 from 2003 and 1 from 2007. One of those profiles, the DNA profile in that, was uploaded to CODIS. CODIS is the combined DNA index system, which houses all of the DNA profiles for convicted offenders throughout the country. And to date, there have been no matches in the CODIS database. And typical processing for us is to generate the profile, the DNA profile, and upload those either to the state, national, or local database, or compare it to any suspects. In this case, in all cases, we examined about 25 areas along your DNA, and none of those areas code for physical appearance. With advancements in DNA technology, as Captain Bergman said, we were able to take a new look at this case and determine if anything further can be done. One of the options was for the creation of these photos or these composites that you see here, and that was done from Parabon Nanolabs, and the technology is called Snapshot technology. And instead of treating the DNA like a fingerprint like we do in the laboratory every day, what this technology does is treat your DNA like a blueprint for what your physical appearance is or may be. And it's important to remember this is predictive. This is not a photo of the person. This is a prediction on what they might look like using their DNA. The technology itself is called DNA phenotyping, and it uses data from tens of thousands of genes along your DNA that predict physical characteristics such as hair color, eye color, skin color, and freckling. And then combining that with information about ancestry and facial modeling, they're able to use all that information and come up with a composite sketch that you see here. And it's important to note, again, that these are not photographs. There's a lot of external factors that go into your appearance, but this is based on your DNA, what they believe you might look like. And based on these, this technology, it cannot predict age, it cannot predict height or weight. But again, the first photo is at age 25, which is consistent with what the victim's witnesses described. The suspect will most likely have brown or black colored hair, light brown or fair skin color, black or brown eyes, will most likely not have freckles. The suspect has a Latino ancestry with ancestral DNA similar to those in Puerto Rico or Colombia. And as Captain mentioned, the second photo was aged 40 years, basically 18 years after the lower age estimates of the victim descriptions, and then to 60 years using the high estimates of the age range. So thank you.
While this isn't a photo, obviously, you've said, it's got to be a lot better than the description that you had prior to, right? Or you must be pretty confident that it's a pretty close look at this guy, correct?
Yes, that's correct. This is based on the DNA. So this is based on the DNA that was left behind at the scenes. So using that DNA and then making a composite sketch from the DNA it's a pretty good prediction.
And got to be better than what you had before.
That's hard to say because obviously it's a stressful situation our victims were in, and we're relying on their recollection during that time period. And they might be wrong, but they might be right. I've seen some people do a fantastic job giving a description. So you don't know. You don't know. But this one here, it takes out all those issues. And I would say it looks like the original ones. I think it bears a good resemblance.
Right. Sorry. Do they have, so how precise does it get with let's say how broad his nose may be, or how far apart his eyes may be, or even fat cheeks, whatever. How precise does that get with this type of technology?
Right. So there are genetic markers that control the facial features, how far apart your eyes are, or how wide something might be. So there are genetic markers like that, and they use them and kind of heat map the face to get this composite. Yeah.
How long has this technology been around, and how often do you and Philip use this?
So this technology has been around, available for the forensic community in the past 5 or 10 years. This is the first case we've used it in.
First case?
Yes.
Is there any reason why you haven't used it before?
So it's newer technology to us.
So this hasn't been here for 5 or 10
Correct.
years? How long have you all had it?
This is just, like I said, this is the first case that we've processed with it.
Okay.
So it's only been about a year.
Okay, now, the CODIS database, that collects with DNA?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So the fact that he is not in that database, is that means he has not been arrested and his DNA hasn't been entered then? Is that correct?
So CODIS houses DNA from convicted offenders or in some states, even arrestees. Pennsylvania is a convicted offender state. So if you're convicted of a felony in the state of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, then your DNA is housed at the state database.
Are you surprised that a man who you believe has committed these 4 violent acts has not offended anywhere else, and to the point that he's been arrested or convicted anywhere else to be in this database?
All I could say is that he hasn't. I don't know why there is or isn't, but that he's not in the database anywhere else other than
You
here.
say he told the victims that he has a large family. I don't recall that coming out before, and if he says he has a large family, are we going ahead and then looking at some of those public databases for people putting their own DNA?
Yeah, we are exploring the genealogy. So we've been doing that. But it's very odd. It's new technology for us also. It can be very tedious and long to do. But we're beginning to start it now with the familial DNA and genealogy.
Have you seen this work? I mean, we just recently had in Norristown an unsolved rape, and it was a very similar.
Yes, and we're aware of that, yeah. And we're following along the same path. But
It's the same lab that was used for the Fairmount Park rape as well?
Yes.
So are you able to map out then, the family members? And are you in the process, have you at least gotten that map that they're able to use in this technology and even be able to identify potential family members?
You want to explain how that works and all?
Yeah, sure. So we're in the process of going through the genealogy and the research that goes along with it, with special victims with homicide units. Some of that research takes a long time. Some of these family trees are, as you can imagine, are very extensive. So it takes a long time. We thought that the information that we had, given the composite sketches, was important to get out while we continue that part of the investigation.
Is there something that makes you think that he might still be in this area because of the genealogy aspect of it? And second question too, is the genealogy aspect of the DNA separate from getting the composite part of working with the DNA?
I can answer that second part. It's the same technology. It's the same. We use that same data that they use for the phenotyping. We use that for genealogy as well.
But it's 2 separate processes. It's
Two
not
separate-
like it's, okay.
correct.
I think that's what you.
Yeah.
But to answer your first question, we have no idea where he's at. We have nothing to say that he's still here. We have nothing to say that he's still not. We have no idea. He just went off the radar in 2000. I mean, he went off the radar in 2003 for 4 years until 2007. And we had the one job, and he's been off the radar, all that time. That's a long time. But we are actively, following up on the genealogy. We actually are. Detective Kalin, he can speak on that a little bit. We've already gone out and swabbed some people, but it's a large family tree that's built, and then it's process elimination. That can take a long time, but we are actively doing it. We've reached out to some people already. Some will cooperate, some will not. But the turnaround time is about 2 months each time, so it's long and tedious to do that. But we're going to do it.
That has to give you hope. I mean, some of us who have been here since the mid-2000s, the early 2000s, I mean, the third or fourth head of special victims that has had this case.
Right.
So that has to at least give you hope that you're actually swabbing people that could be connected to them.
It does. It does. It absolutely does. But like I said, it's long and tedious. You go a long time just trying to eliminate people, trying to get closer and closer to a match on the DNA. Am I correct? Right. And sometimes you go in one direction and you find out you're going in the wrong direction.
Just for clarity, you during these attacks, the suspect told the victims, biographical information about himself.
He did, yes, he did. Now, whether or not it's accurate, I don't know, but he did. He would talk to these victims. Some of them he would say, "Why are you out here by yourself all alone?" He's a very, very odd individual, but he did. He would talk to them, and he did tell the one that he's from a very large family. I'm from Puerto Rico, and I'm lonely. I'm here by myself. He went on to say, I've been here about 5 years. Now, that may be true. It may not be. I don't know. The reason why I put all that out there, including the scarring, which may or may not be there, is for somebody to recognize that. Somebody may see this photo. They may see the original photo when he was 25 years old and say, I knew him back then. Or they may see the new one when he's approximately 40 and say he sounds familiar, and he may have those marks of scarring, or he did work at this store. That's why I put it all out there. There's nothing to lose by putting it out there.
Making small talk before he attacked.
After the attack, actually.
After.
Yeah, what he did, the MO was always the same. He would come up from behind, he'd put him in a headlock, and he'd produce that knife, and he would threaten him, and he would drag him to another area. And then he would talk to him maybe before, mostly after. He would talk to him afterwards.
Have you had ongoing contact with obviously the victims who survived, and had you run this image by them?
Yeah, we reached out, Detective Caitlin reached out to the victims. You want to talk about that, or?
Please. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
State your name, please.
yeah, Detective Ron Kahlan, Kahlan. My partner and I have been in contact with two of the 3 victims. We spoke to them, and they've seen the composites, the new composites.
And
What did they say to you? What did they say to you about that? They think this is the guy they saw?
To say definitely no. I mean, they looked familiar. One of the victims did say that facial features look similar, other than weight, missing a goatee. I think in the newer photos, said a goatee, shorter hair, but that's as much as we got.
Did they express some sort of sense of relief or a positive view now that maybe inch closer?
Yeah, I mean, they were both, but the two that we talked to were very happy to hear that we're still working on the case, and I guess we haven't stopped working on it, but they were happy to hear about the new developments, and yeah, they were very appreciative.
Just to be clear, you said the thing, you said, did he, I don't remember this part, but did he have a mustache in all the times he attacked, and then a goatee at one point?
There was some sort of thin
Okay.
mustache or a goatee.
He's some along his jawline too, I
Yeah.
think, someone had described. What you have to take into consideration is that the computer does not account for that. You can grow facial hair
Yeah.
and shave it, so it doesn't put that on there.
Which is why one of the victims, when we showed her the new photos, she said, it looked similar, other than the face was thinner, hair was shorter, and with a goatee.
So you, with all the work you've done, you see him between age 40 and 60 now?
I would say, based off the description, more in his 40s.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Based off the description, I would think he was more in his 40s. Do you agree with that? Yeah, more in his 40s. But just, the other side of caution, you project it out also a little older, just because you don't know. You can't be sure. Some people look younger and are older. But all the complainants, all the victims described him as being in his 20s. I believe that's what he was, in his 20s.
Can you talk a little bit more about the swabbing that you've done? Was it within the city of Philadelphia, or within the region, around the country? And what time frame have you done the swabbing?
Speak about that.
Yeah, sure. So like you said, we reached out to quite a few people. Some have been cooperative, some haven't been. We've swabbed 2 people, and they're both in the area. Obviously, I can't tell you where, but they're both in the Philadelphia area.
And where are you, how confident are you with that? And I know it's a process, it takes like 2 months, you were saying, Captain, but are you still within that 2-month window, or?
As far as,
Waiting for that
Oh,
swab to come back?
yes, yeah.
We've gotten some back.
We got one back, yes. One of the swabs came back, and it basically told us we were going in the wrong direction. So we've done a second swab, and we're in the process of submitting that. So it's going to take, probably 6 to 8 weeks before we get something back to tell us if we are going in the right direction.
And then you
The
turn
second
around.
swab is with, the second swab is with the same person, or the?
Different person, yes,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so
2 separate swabs from 2 different people, yes.
If it
And then
tells
so,
you you're-
wait, sorry, I just asked a
No,
question
you-
in between. So with the familial, like when do you, I guess, get genealogists, then do you guys hire genealogists, or do you have genealogists in the crime scene unit that then work that tree? if
The
you will?
genealogist is kind of, I guess, guiding us, I guess Ryan could speak, from
they're
Parabon.
Parabon.
Yeah, they're from Parabon. They're kind of guiding us as to who we should be swabbing, who they think potential people that we should be swabbing, like on the family tree. So we're being guided by them.
Were the 2 people who you swabbed, were they suspects in crimes, and was it voluntarily, or was it from a court order?
They consented to a swab. It was
Were
voluntary.
they suspects in crimes?
They came up in a family tree.
They came up in, yeah.
The first thing they do is build a family tree of anybody who might be related to this original donor. Once you build a family tree, then the analyst will try to, through a process of elimination, decide who to swab to see how you get closer and closer to a match for this DNA.
Do those men know him, or do they tell you that they might know who he is?
We haven't shown any of them any sketches or anything like that.
but the feedback I got was everybody claimed they had no knowledge of it. Some of them didn't even know about other family members, which I can understand. They probably don't. They don't realize that they're, distantly related.
So when you swab these folks, you say to them, so here's what we're looking for here. We're looking for the Fairmount Park rapist. And we've got some technology that puts you in a family tree linked in some way to his DNA.
Yes.
So we want to swab you. Want
Yes.
to tell us anything else? I mean, is that a kind of conversation you might have with them?
That's about the conversation that we're having with them, yeah. Just inform them that we're, investigating the cold cases, and they've come up in a family tree, and, it may be a relative that they know or don't know. Most likely, it's probably somebody they don't know. And if they're willing to consent to a swab, we'll take a swab from them. And like I said, some have been willing to, and others have said they don't want to be involved.
And when they say no, you can't swab them.
No,
You can't subpoena them, or you can't
No.
legally enforce.
no.
But when you said to them, so we're looking at Fairmount Park rapists, nobody volunteered anything. Nobody said, you get out of here, man. Or just reacted in any way when you use those terms to these folks.
As far as it
When
not
you
wanting to
use-
swab, not wanting to be swabbed?
Well, yeah, when you said to them, look, we're gonna swab you, okay, you can swab me, here's who.
Well, we would have to get their consent before we swab them.
Right, but did they react to the idea that you were looking for a notorious?
Well, we've had
rapist
some
and
people
killing
that
you?
didn't want to cooperate. They said that they just didn't want to be involved, and, they didn't want to be involved. They didn't want to be swabbed.
You swab these people not as suspects, but as possible relatives.
Yes.
Okay.
And just to clarify, you said that he mentioned to the victims that he was from Puerto Rico, and that was confirmed through the DNA that matched people from the region of Puerto Rico. Is that how you know that he's from that area?
So in terms of the ancestry, it's in this database that Paramount has. They look at, they tested thousands of people, and they self-report what their ancestry is. And then he most closely matches this person or that person or a couple people in that database. So that's how we kind of can narrow down the ancestry there. So he most closely matches people that have ancestry, Latino ancestry from Puerto Rico or Colombia. So that's how he matches the ancestry.
He matches what he told the victims then? Because he mentioned to the victims that he was from Puerto Rico, is that what he said?
He did.
Okay.
Yes.
So when you say you've narrowed it down to a family tree, do you mean one family and you're trying to circle in on who within this one family is the person?
So these family trees, as any family tree, are extremely large. It's not just one family; it's multiple families and marriages from other families that come in. So these family trees just grow and grow and grow. So it's not just one family. It's not like we're narrowed down on any one part of a family tree. And when we do swab these, the people that cooperate, we're looking to see if they're of a closer relationship than what we have, and then we can kind of eliminate, either include that family tree or eliminate that part of the family tree. So that's what we're doing. We're going out and swabbing these people that are volunteering their DNA. So we're trying to either narrow down one part or eliminate another part.
So when you get a swab that says you're going in the wrong direction, you just go to another part of the tree?
That's correct.
If there's been DNA already submitted voluntarily from those people into the Ancestry or 23andMe or whatever, do you have access to those?
No. So is it, in terms of the genealogy, law enforcement, we have the ones that are public to law enforcement are family tree DNA and GEDmatch. Those are the only ones that are public to law enforcement.
This is gonna be dumb here, but I'm gonna try. When someone says to you, no, you can't swab me, doesn't that interest you? I mean, I know it's big, it's a big field of folks, but it's interesting when somebody walks away from it when you ask them about what it is, and tell them what you're doing and want to swab them.
It would interest me, yes, it piques your curiosity, but I can understand it also. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people in this room, if we approached you and said we want to swab you and told you what it was for, you might say no. You might say no and have nothing to do with it. But it does, it piques our curiosity, it does,
Is there anything else, because it's interesting, you say that you can't subpoena them to do that. Is there any, I guess, conversations that are starting to have as this technology is becoming more advanced, where there might be something else that law enforcement can do to compel somebody? If you feel that you're really zoning in on that area, do you have the investigative tools to compel somebody at that point?
I guess we'd have to conduct an investigation, and if we develop other probable cause, yeah, we could get a warrant for their DNA. Absent that, no.
But you're just not there yet.
Yeah, and we could have a long way to go, because like I said, the family trees are large. They are. And we worked with the analyst or the genealogist. And that's who's basically guiding us here. As a result of that, go over here and talk to this one here. And then we will, try and get a spot from them. And we'll wait for that, see how that comes back. And if that takes us closer to the subject, then we'll go in that direction. If not, we gotta go in the other direction now.
Have you thought about the probability that he's dead, given the fact that he's a very violent person and he hasn't struck in nearly 20 years?
Yes, and that's probably the number one theory that people have out there. Everybody has their own theory, but we don't know. We don't know what happened to him. We don't know where he's at. Maybe he just stopped committing crimes. Maybe he took steps to prevent us from getting his DNA. I don't know, but one of the theories is that he's deceased, and that's why we're not getting his DNA anymore, or in the system at all.
Could it be that he's back in Puerto Rico or whatever country, and then you don't have access to that
Well, I think,
DNA, or do you?
right, you did a global search one.
Yeah. So at some point during this investigation over the past 18 years, there was a more of a global search on international databases, DNA databases, and there was negative results there as well. So.
What's this thing cost? What's the ongoing price here? This can't be cheap here.
No, it's not cheap. Thousands of dollars, probably tens of thousands of dollars now at this point for this investigation alone. So it's not a cheap cost.
So tens of thousands of dollars for this technology on this case?
For this investigation alone, yeah. Probably just over 10,000.
Just over 10 at this point. And of course, it's ongoing here,
Yes.
obviously. So.
Is that why Philadelphia has only had it in the past year? Is it because of budgeting? And is it, I don't want to get too much into like budgeting and stuff, but I mean, is this being funded by the city, or is there an outside organization that's helping,
That's right. That I wouldn't know that. I don't know if you have an answer for that.
No, not really. I don't have an answer for that one. Sorry.
But now, so this is the first one that you've done using all this technology. So do you now have a list?
Well, this is the first phenotyping that's been done.
Okay.
Not the genealogy. That's been done in several others. And it kind of didn't pan out. The victims didn't necessarily want to cooperate, so it really didn't lead to anything.
So with this being the first phenotyping, you must have like a long list of other cases that you have? I mean, is this now going to be something that we're going to be seeing this often happening?
Yeah, well, we would love to, but as was mentioned, the expense has to be factored in also. But on a case-by-case basis, I guess we would review each case and see if it would be, good for us to use on that.
So why pick a cold case that's 2 decades old?
Well, it's 2 decades old, but it's a murder also. And if we get the statute of limitations, we can disregard that because of the CODIS. CODIS allows us to, if we get a hit in there, to have 1 year after we get the hit. So, I mean, this is a pretty heinous job. It's a murder. Certainly we want to bring this one in.
The 2003 assault that wasn't DNA is which one? 1, 2, or 3?
Where we didn't get DNA on, that was the third one, the one at West River Drive, just south of the Falls Bridge. One that was in October of 2003. Yeah. That was an attempt.
Oh, the attempt.
She was stabbed, pretty bad.
When you look at those sketches, the 25 years, from at 25 and the older ones, could you point out some of the differences and the similarities between them? I don't know if you remind us if you know best or.
I can barely see it here.
Would you call them similar, or do you think they're, the differences are they're so, different?
I think they're similar. If you look at the one on the top, the second from the left, and the one all the way on the right, I think if you look at the one when he's 25 years old, I think it bears a pretty good resemblance. If you look at the eyes, how the eyebrows are raised, they're bushy, just the whole face, I think matches. I think it's close, let's put it that way. One of our victims looked at it and said that, yeah, it definitely bears a resemblance, but she thought it was thinner, a little thinner. And you can't account for weight with this program.
Is the hair just a guess?
Well, they always, he has a widow's peak. Most of them describe a widow's peak that he had.
But he could be totally bald now.
Yeah, that's correct. And there's nothing you can do. The program will not factor that in. whether you go bald or gray hair. Or,
Yeah, if there's information, in terms of what the hairstyle was or is, that can be modeled in, but just a generic hairstyle based on the previous, witness descriptions is what was going here. In terms of the hair color, you can predict it, but the style you can't, or lack, or amount.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Everybody be careful. Yes.
Is it called with hearing?
You gotta be careful getting through.
Had you do this wrong.